Hey, what's going on guys, and welcome back to another video. So a few days ago I made an updated video regarding the top 3 weapons for each category in Battlefield 2042, and that video will pop up on the top right corner. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already. But today I decided to do a video giving you the highest damage weapon for each weapon category in Battlefield 2042 and the best setup for them, so you guys can have a perspective of how much damage a weapon can deal without taking fire rate and distance into consideration. Now, this is very important to know that we're completely excluding distance here unless two weapons are actually in a tie situation, meaning that we only care for pure damage. And if you feel confused, no worries, because I'll show you the full stats and you'll finally figure it out. Some of the results are quite shocking. I didn't really expect to see some weapons in this list, so bear with me for a few minutes because you're in for some big surprises and things are pretty spicy in some categories. So no more talking. Let's get started. Starting off with the secondary weapons, and you might think that, well, it's going to be the BFP-50, right? Well, let me unveil the first surprise of this video for you. The secondary weapon with the highest damage possible is the Super 500. Yes, and this weapon can give you a one-shot kill body shot, which is impossible to achieve with any other secondary weapon. And you might ask, how is that possible? Well, simply said, Super 500 is a shotgun and it shoots pellets instead of bullets. Each pellet deals a specific amount of damage, and each shotgun shell contains a specific amount of pellets. As you can see, the Super 500's buckshot ammo deals 18 damage per pellet, and we've got 11 pellets in each shell. Simple math here. By the way, I hate math, but 18 times 11 equals 198, which is the total damage you see here. This means that if you shoot someone in under 10 meters and you manage to land all 11 pellets, you're going to deal 198 damage, which is enough to kill them twice, not even once. So that's how things work for shotguns in 2042. So yeah, the Super 500 is definitely the hardest hitting secondary weapon in 2042. The setup here is actually pretty simple. You're going to use buckshot first, then fléchette, and then a red dot of choice should do the trick here. And here's the setup. Moving on to SMGs, and here we have another weird outcome. You probably think the highest damage goes to the PP29, right? Well, that's what I thought prior to making this video, but believe it or not, that title goes to PP2000. Now, it's pretty rare to see a vault weapon achieving something like this, but since we're living in 2025, probably nothing is weird anymore. If I want to give you a quick comparison between the PP29 and the PP2000, here's how it works. First of all, the highest damage an SMG is capable of doing in 2042 right now in January 2025 is 28 damage, and these weapons both can deal 28 damage. However, now that the damage output is the same, we gotta take a look at the distance. As you can see, the PP29 only deals 28 damage per round in under 30 meters, which is 10 meters less than the PP2000, meaning that the PP2000 can maintain that 28 damage for 10 more meters, and that's the difference that determines the winner here. PP2000 is a low fire rate SMG with only 675 RPM, but the stability on this thing makes it really strong in mid-range as well, just like the PP29. For the setup, I like a champion muzzle brake. You also need to use both standard issue mags, but prioritize the extended one. Then I use my favorite red dot sight, which is the Fusion Hollow, and there goes the setup. Now moving on to the always hot and spicy weapon category, the assault rifles. I could not believe the results here, and I actually did look into it again and again to make sure that I was right. The weapon with the highest damage in assault rifle category is the SCAR, but bear with me for a second. It has a ridiculously strong opponent, which is the AK-5C. Let me show you why this thing is mind-blowing. Looking at the stats for the SCAR, with the high power ammo it deals 26 damage in under 50 meters, but that's also the case for the AK-5C with high power ammo. Take a look. 26 damage in under 50 meters, same as the SCAR. It was such a dramatic tie that I decided TTK should decide the winner here. And take a look at this now. The full auto TTK for the AK-5C is 290 milliseconds, and for the SCAR, it's 289 milliseconds, meaning that the TTK on the SCAR is faster by only 1 millisecond. It's literally 0.001 second. Man, what a competition. It was that close, so the AK-5C is for sure a worthy opponent for the SCAR. Now, the best setup for SCAR is having an Arkham Tactical muzzle brake. Use your favorite ammo types for the underbarrel grenade launcher. Mine is the armor piercing, then the high explosive, and then the incendiary. For ammo, high powered drum, standard issue, and then high power should do the trick. And finally, I like a red dot sight paired with a ghost hybrid. And here's the final setup. Moving on to LMGs, and honestly, the competition here wasn't so intimidating, and LCMG got a dominant win. The only weapon that came close to it was the M60E4, but it wasn't so close to make me want to compare them head to head, so just sticking to the LCMG here. Two things about this weapon absolutely disgust me. The first one is the fire rate, which is just too low for me, being around 600 RPM, and the second one is the horizontal recoil that this weapon has by nature. But to have all that damage, they needed to somehow balance this weapon, and apparently this was their way of doing that. Now for the setup, I'd like to use the Arkham Tactical Muzzle Brake to get rid of some of that horizontal recoil. Then I'd go for LMG grip, then a set of bipods, and finally the Master Key, which is an underbarrel shotgun. And for a weapon like the LCMG with low fire rate, it helps a lot in those CQB situations. Absolutely a banger, and you should definitely consider using it a lot more. For the ammo, standard extended, then standard issue, and then subsonic should do the trick. And lastly, for weapon sights, a red dot sight and the Ghost Hybrid is my favorite combination, and there goes the setup. Moving on to DMRs, and again, the usual winner would have been the SVK, right? I mean, it has always been the dominant DMR ever since the beginning of 2042, and that was the case up until just a couple of months ago, where people at DICE decided to bring a World War II weapon into the all-out warfare, and that weapon is the legendary M1 Grand. The M1 is now officially the hardest hitting DMR in the game, and it's also the only DMR that can do a one-shot headshot kill, which by the way happens in under 30 meters, and it's a two-shot kill in under 70 meters, which is just pretty impressive for a World War II weapon. It also has a muzzle velocity of 965 meters per second, which is insane, and it's comparable to a lot of sniper rifles in this game. Now, taking a look at the setup, this thing is a vault weapon after all. On top of that, it's almost 80 years old, so there's not much you can do to put like attachments on it, and it's really limited in that regard, but you can always put on some scopes, you know. So here's what I do. I use the 2x medium range and then the 6x long range scope, and that's it. Here's the setup. Moving on to sniper rifles, and there's no surprise here. I mean, as long as there's a 50 caliber anti-material sniper rifle, is there another weapon that can claim to deal more damage? I don't think so. The NTW-50 is by far the hardest hitting sniper rifle in the game. Back in the day, when DICE wanted to balance a one-shot kill sniper rifle, they tried reducing the muzzle velocity by a significant amount, and I mean it when I say it. Those 50 cal rounds fly around like pigeons in this game. It's hilarious, but the muzzle velocity of the NTW is 485 meters per second, which is just pistol standard in 2042. For example, the BFP-50 offers more muzzle velocity, the NVK P125 is even better, and that says a lot about the NTW and how capable it is, because these people literally had to nerf it so bad just to keep it slightly balanced, and good news is they actually failed to do that, just like many other things with 2042, because nobody really uses this weapon in long range where muzzle velocity actually matters. People tend to use this weapon in mid-range, somewhere between 100 to 200 meters at max, and it's a monster. Not only against human targets, but also against vehicles. I believe it deals something like 12 to 13 damage to the Wildcat or the Brawler per round, which is just insane. So no matter how chunky and heavy it is, it's probably the most powerful weapon in the entire game. And now a quick look at the setup for this thing. Your choices are actually limited here. Keep in mind that you should always use the anti-material rounds first, then the anti-material high power, unless you want to solely play against vehicles. Then for the scopes, I'd rather a Raven 4X and a 2038 thermal, and there goes the setup. Last but not least, we've got the tactical weapons here, which offer a variety of different weapons from shotguns to crossbows and railguns. So yeah, a pretty weird weapon category if you ask me, but since we have shotguns here, sifting through these weapons shouldn't be as hard as you might think. So we've got 3 shotguns, and the one with the most damage is simply the pump action MCS 880. Now I've explained how it works for shotguns in the beginning of the video for the Super 500, and the same applies here as well. For the MCS and the buckshot number 1, we've got 12 pellets per shell, each dealing 20 damage. Again, a simple math here, 12 times 20 equals 240, and that means if you manage to land all 12 pellets, you're going to deal 240 damage, which is just overkill and more than enough to do a one-shot kill. So as far as I'm concerned, the MCS 880 is alright. Now for the setup, factory barrel, LS1 laser sight for more hipfire accuracy, 0-1 buckshot, then number 4 buckshot, and then 0-0 buckshot should do the trick. Now you only need a red dot sight, and there goes the setup. So here you have it, guys, the highest damage weapon for each category in Battlefield 2042, and this was the early 2025 edition. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some other vault weapons in future, if not all of them at once, so this list might need to be updated, and I'll be here to do so if that happens. Hope you enjoyed the video and hope this was helpful. Make sure to comment down below and let me know what you think about it. Criticism, suggestions, I'm open to all of it. So go ahead and comment down below and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and until next time, guys, stay cool.